The title of our discussion today is, Are You in Compliance with the Great Reset Power Struggle, Conformity, and Obedience to the New World Order Chain of Command? Well, in the last 2 years, if you wore your mask when you were told to, especially if you wore your mask in your car when you were driving by yourself, and you've got your shots, well, you are in complete conformity and you are obedient to the New World Order. Congratulations. So, there is a chain of command. This great reset is attempting to get all subjects in compliance. Compliance of what, you ask? Compliant to taking orders. Taking orders from who your immediate superior is. Taking orders from your immediate superior, whoever that may be. If you are a low-level government, city, county worker, well, then you show conformity and obedience by wearing your mask when told to by middle management in the government matrix. And in our discussion today, we have to assume that there is no difference between government and corporate entities. They both work together hand in hand to control the unwashed masses. Okay, so there is a chain of command. The low-level worker wears a mask or loses his job. This is a lesson in taking orders. So this is all part of the Great Reset. Obedience, control. Again, taking orders, and the chain of command is so important. It really is. I mean, if anybody's been in the military, you understand that the military would break down if there was no chain of command. And that's the same thing with the Great Reset or the New World Order. It would break down if there was no solid chain of command. The middle management, government or corporate person implements these tyrannical laws, or they get fired by their superior. So the basic context of our discussion today is there is a chain of command in this Great Reset. It has been thoroughly thought out, and they do believe it's important that they give out orders, and what the orders are not important. The order for you wearing a mask was not important. What was important to them was that you were able to be obedient and listen and take orders. So we found out that about half of America was pretty compliant and they just took the orders. And we found out that maybe at least 40% to 50% of America did not really care for being bossed around and being given orders to do silly stuff. Anyhow, what is the next step up the chain of command from? You got middle management. See, you got the low-level workers who know nothing. The low-level workers who just do all the work. And then you got middle management. They don't get their hands dirty, but again, they were the ones that implement the tyrannical laws, and the middle management is the one that makes sure that you take orders and you do as you're told. So we're just kind of going over the basics here of chain of command. And this might be a good time to put in, a lot of people think middle management is not important. Well, I'm here to tell you that middle management is very, very important to the elites at the top. And the reason why is, remember, if you don't take orders, if you are not obedient and you cannot take orders, who is it that fires the low-level employee? It is middle management. So middle management actually has to fire that low-level grunt. And what happens with these grunts are not always the most sophisticated people. Sometimes they do things with violence. They get things. The only way, if you have limited education skills, and like I say, if you're born in the family I was born in, we got things done through violence. My dad ruled our family through violence. And anyhow, what I'm trying to tell you is the workers sometimes get violent when they are fired. So it's very, very important to have middle management there to buffer the elites when people go postal. Okay, so from middle management, what is the next step up the chain of command? Many people might think that their elected politicians and the corporate CEOs are next up the ladder. This is incorrect. They are merely puppets playing roles as actors. Politicians and CEOs are not serious people. Again, they are merely puppets playing roles as actors. So the next group of people up the ladder are the handlers. Again, so let's be clear, what is middle management? Middle management is like those people in government, those bureaucrats who write the tyrannical laws, and you know who middle management is. I mean, they go to their little cubicle every day at the government or the corporate office, and 9 to 5 people. They sometimes go on the golf course. Middle management goes to the golf course for lunch. They write the laws, but I mean, but the next step up on the ladder, again, is not the CEOs and not the politicians, but it's the handler who controls and manipulates the elected politician or corporate CEO. And why is this important? Because if you work in government or you are middle management in the corporation, you may think that you're actually taking orders from the elected politician or the CEO, when in fact the elected politician or the CEO is just repeating to middle management what the handler has told him to say. And again, let me point out here that there is not much difference between government and corporation. They both work together to maintain power, and there is the key word in our discussion today about the chain of command. Power, 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 power. It's all about power and taking orders and being obedient. Well, duh. Well, I guess I should speed this up. It looks like I got about 10 more pages to go in our little briefing here. So power, it is all consuming. Hell, even Donald Trump admitted a few days ago, he admitted he wished he had the power that North Korean Kim had to make his advisors cower. You see, Donald Trump loved for people to cower. Donald Trump didn't want you to tell him the truth. Donald Trump, or any other narcissistic puppet for that matter, is only interested in the self-pleasure they get that the power gives them. So the people who are in government, who are attracted to the high levels of the corporation, they are very interested in this self-pleasure the power gives them. And they like it when they go onto the golf course. And it's all about self-pleasure and power. Sadly, the puppets are picked for this weakness that blinds them. So it is somewhat important that you pick somewhat dim, narcissistic people to be puppets, for they are easily controlled at every level on the ladder. Power and control is necessary. So who is above the handler who controls the puppet? That normally, well, 90% of the time, is a board of directors. In the old days, that would be a board of old, rich, Caucasian men. And the world runs somewhat smoothly from 1946 to around 2000, when you had a board of directors full of old, rich Caucasian men. Things were running pretty smoothly, I think. Not perfect, but things were moving right along. But ever since 2001, 2008, things are not running so smoothly. And it is no coincidence that there is a power struggle to put more rich females on these boards. So this is not a coincidence that in the last 20 years, since we've been trying to put these skirts on the board of directors and give them more power, that there is a breakdown in society. There's a breakdown in the power of, the chain of command, and things are not running as smoothly as they once. So again, we're talking about a power struggle here, aren't we? So you throw a few little females into the power struggle stew and things start to smell a little spicy, don't they? All right. If you are an NSA or an FBI student, you would have a chalkboard or a glass board up in front of you with all the images and the names of the players in this power struggle. Everything we're talking about, it would, if you were at home, even at home, if you had this little chalkboard and put pictures up on, you've seen the movies, the Blacklist, so forth and so forth. Anyhow, each board of directors have a team of advisors. Now, in rare instances, you have one man who has absolute power over a corporation, and he normally doesn't have a whole team of advisors. He probably has a few advisors. But if you have one man who built the corporation, but anyhow, you've got these board of directors, and they have advisors. Now, the advisors are on the same level as the handlers for the most part. So we're just going over the chain of command here. You had the low-level workers, you got middle management. Forget about the CEOs and the elected puppets, okay? But above middle management, you have the handlers, but also the advisors who advise the board of directors. They are on the same level. Advisors, well, that's a chapter all by itself, isn't it? But we don't have time for that today, now do we? Okay, so when you're talking about advisors, small corporations can have a single advisor, normally called legal counsel. That would be their title. Big corporations have think tanks with a dozen advisors working together. AI supercomputers have been gaining stature at this level because they sometimes see things that 12 blind advisors do not see on the think tanks. You see, and make note here, to be on a think tank board, this requires a bit of nepotism. So hence, even a dumb AI computer looks good compared to 12 nepotistic young nephews that have been put on a think tank. So anyhow, the reason why the elites are really starting to love this AI stuff is because it does eliminate the nepotism. Okay, so all this is pretty basic. So where it starts to get a little complicated is when we leave the chain of command for humans and we enter the chain of commands for corporations. Needless to say, a small corporation like Ivanka Trump importing Chinese-made heels and purses, well, that corporation is low on the chain of command for corporations. Midway up the ladder, a huge casino collecting data on the rich gamblers is an example of a mid-level corporation operation. When you're talking about, again, we're talking about the chain of command strictly for corporations. We're not on a human level here anymore. So you got like Ivanka Trump at the bottom. You've got the huge casinos that are collecting data on the rich gamblers. They're like mid-level, but they get to rub elbows with the highest levels. I mean, you could write a book on that subject alone, which we're not. Again, we're running out of time here. So I do apologize that this is taking so long, but we are diving into some advanced level here. Now, towards the top of the ladder in corporations, well, you have the corporations that are necessary to control the masses. Pharmaceuticals are the latest players to rocket to the top of this chain of command in corporations. The pharmaceuticals are very, very important in controlling the masses. Now, again, we're talking about the upper levels of the chain of command for the corporations. Now, corporate media has long been at the top in controlling the masses. That we won't even go into that. That's self-explanatory. I won't get into the black ops, military supporting shell corporations who may be diversifying into real estate because that is way too advanced for this little briefing. The chain of command in this power struggle for the New World Order. And some people might say, well, it's always been this way since the dawn of time. Duh. I mean, one thing that never changes is human nature. So the power struggle will always keep repeating with every new generation. Again, because human nature never changes. Oh, the sweet smell of the Machiavellian power struggle. And the fresh smell of Coco Chanel No. 5 lingering in the American boardroom. But times are changing, aren't they? As real American men are dying, Coco Chanel No. 5 looks like an easy mark for the likes of these two men. It is no coincidence I've been showing you pictures of two men who understand all too well the power struggle dilemma. These two men have raised the standard of living in their countries as our standard of living has fallen. What does that tell you? So in closing, every generation gets to witness a special group of people rise to extreme levels of power. In my early years, I got to see firsthand how a Nazi-indoctrined board of directors ruled the world with an arsenal of nukes and ICBMs. We were feared worldwide and no one dared challenge us. Every generation gets to witness this power struggle. Embrace the glorious battle and go down swinging.